Hello, everyone. Hello, Subtle Shifts community. We are live, or I should say, I am live to host this workshop. I'm going to give it a few moments to get everyone to hop on. I know there are a couple of people who said they could come live, but I know many of you will be watching this on the replay. If you are watching this on the replay, grab your worksheet. I didn't know what I was going to say. If you are watching this on the replay, grab your worksheet. If you don't have a worksheet, you can click in the comments below and I will have a link to the worksheet. And let me just say in advance that it's okay for you to let this time be just for you. It's okay for you to silence your phone. It's okay for you to put the things aside that need to be done and really truly give yourself the chance to focus here and be fully present. One of the things that happens to everyone, myself included, is especially when watching a video or doing a training, is like I'm kind of one ear in, one ear out. Maybe I have one AirPod in and another one out. Maybe I'm doing the dishes, multitasking. It's okay for you to put that stuff aside for a few minutes and really focus in on this, because that's how it's going to make the most impact for you. That's how you can fully integrate what it is I'm going to share with you. Otherwise, it's just going to be more noise in your head. And I know you don't need that. So I'm going to put the link to the worksheet in the chat. Here it is. You can print it out. You can have it handy. You can look at it. Maybe have a journal nearby, something where you're able to take notes. Partly because it helps you really put into practice the things that I'm sharing, but also because it's something to look back on and reflect on. Because it's one thing to learn a strategy and it's another thing to actually implement it. And I'm going to talk to you, part of this training is going to teach you how to implement it in your life going forward. So before we get started, if you're watching the video, pause, get your stuff ready and come back. And then let's just collectively take a big breath in through your nose. Breathe out through your mouth. Set an intention for what it is you want to walk away from this workshop with. It's really important to know why you're here and what it is that you're wanting to achieve in being here, so that this is not just one more thing that you hear and then you put down and you forget about. Why do you want to be here? What is it you want to take away? Write in the chat. I'd love to hear your thoughts. I'm not necessarily going to be looking at the chat while I'm sharing. I will look at the end and I will follow up after I post this video. But I do really want to get to the point and get going. So let's dive in. Your inner critic. So in this workshop, you're going to learn where your lack of confidence comes from. I'm going to teach you a 3-step process to help you start feeling more confident. And then I'm also going to teach you how to implement this process with consistency so that you can start taking action and create a life that you love. No small feat. So before we dive into the 3 steps and get into the action part of it all, let's just take a moment to explore the bigger picture of what's really going on when it comes to confidence. So many of us think that this lack of confidence or this problem really is just the lack of confidence. I don't have enough confidence, and if I did, I would do X, Y, Z, right? Like we want certainty. We want, like, if I felt good about myself, then I would do these things. Or if I had more confidence, I would say these things. We think that that's it. It's just a lack of confidence. But the truth is, there's something deeper going on. There's another layer that's holding you back, that's keeping you in place. So the problem, you think what the problem is that just that you lack confidence. And so what you do as a result is you spend a lot of time here. Let me know if this sounds like something you do. Give me a thumbs up in the chat if you're like, yep, that's me. You spend a lot of time preparing for things. You think that the more you prepare, the more prepared you are, the less the chances of you making a mistake. Or you avoid taking on new challenges, doing something different, or speaking up because you're afraid of what other people will think, or you're afraid of failing. Another thing that we do is we look for reassurance from others. If I get feedback from others that I'm doing okay, I'll feel better about myself. Or do you compare yourself to other people? Thumbs up if that's you. I know I do that. Thinking like, if I could just have my shit together like she does, then my life would be better. I would feel better about myself. I'd finally feel good about myself. Another really big one is just sticking to the familiar, staying in your comfort zone, just so you can avoid those icky feelings of like, I'm not good enough, or I don't fit in, or this isn't going to work, or failure, any uncomfortable feeling that comes with like when you're feeling less than confident. And when you do all of those things, what ends up happening is you have a sense of temporary relief. Like, gosh, I'm so glad I didn't speak up. You know, I feel so much better. Like, who knows what would have happened, right? You may feel a little bit better as a result. Like, I'm so prepared for this thing. I'm so confident now. I feel so much better that I spent hours and hours and hours perfecting it. But with these behaviors, your confidence itself is not actually shifting. The underlying confidence is not actually shifting. You're just kind of putting a Band-Aid on it. So it doesn't have as much of an impact. And what you really need to solve it, I'm going to tell you what the problem really is, and that is your inner critic is running the show. That inner voice, we all have it, that distorts your self-perception and prevents you from taking action is running the show. It's like in The Wizard of Oz, the guy behind the curtain that's doing all of the things, running the show. You can't really see it, but it's there, like taking over everything. In order to address this inner critic, first, there's a process that you can follow, and I'm going to teach you that to help quiet the voice a little bit. And when you do that, when you implement these 3 steps, and I'm going to teach them today, you're going to have a clearer path to feeling more confident. And it's going to be done with self-compassion so that you're able to take action and do the things you want to do with less self-doubt and less self-criticism. So here's what I want you to do. Choose one area of your life where you feel less confident. It could be in relationships, maybe not speaking up. It could be in your career, not going for things that you want to go for, or not going for switching jobs or starting a business. It could be body image. Wherever it is in your life where you just feel less than confident. That is one area where your inner critic is holding you back. And in coaching, we have a word for that inner critic. We have a name for it. It's called the gremlin. So, you know, the movie The Gremlins, you can picture kind of a gremlin kind of character, like mischief maker kind of thing, but it's called a gremlin. And that's what I'm going to be referring to the inner critic for the rest of this workshop, your gremlin. We all have a gremlin. And the gremlin is basically just that little voice in your head that tells you you're not good enough. And it comes in all different flavors, right? It can be you're not thin enough, you're not rich enough, you're not successful enough, you're not smart enough, right? You're not accomplished enough, you don't have enough money. Like all of these things, you don't have enough. That's basically the gremlin's message. Now think about a time, like a specific time recently, where you lacked confidence. You felt less than confident. And I'm going to walk you through this 3-step process, and you can use this situation that you're thinking of as an example. Okay? Now get your worksheet, and at the top, underneath identify your gremlin, you're going to describe a situation where you felt less than confident. So take a few moments, in just a sentence or two, right? This is just for you. You don't have to write a novel. What was happening? How were you feeling in that situation? So take a couple of minutes to write that down. This is the first part of step 1. And what you're doing here is you're bringing awareness to the inner critic, to this gremlin. The method that I'm sharing with you, I should say, there's an acronym for it. It's the AIR method: awareness, integration, and release. So this, just identifying a time when you feel less than confident, is part of the awareness, okay? So write that down. Then what you're going to do is, and this might feel kind of funny, but it's okay. You're going to name your gremlin. You're going to give it a name. And what this does is it separates that gremlin's message, that gremlin itself, from you. Because that voice that's coming in your head is not you, it's part of you. And if you're able to separate that part and be able to look at it as a separate entity, it reduces its power. So think of your gremlin's name, and preferably a name not of someone you know, because that'll entangle it with a person. Although I did have a client recently who named it after a specific person who bullied them when they were young, which is fine, whatever resonates. But think of a name. The first name is the best name, and no, you can change it if you're a perfectionist. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just pick a name. Write it down on your paper, skipping the second question. Just write down the name and type it in the chat. I would love to know the name of your gremlin. Type it in the chat. Again, you're separating this gremlin from yourself when you write it down and when you type it in the chat. This is going to be so helpful for you in the next 2 steps. Okay? So name your gremlin. Every gremlin we have, because there's more than one, they were all created for a specific purpose. And no, it's not just to be a jerk to you and to make you feel bad. It feels like it, but it's not. Your gremlin was created to shield you from pain, embarrassment, rejection, failure, shame, loss, anything that has to do with a lack of control, emotional risks. It's there as a shield from uncomfortable feelings. So I'm going to give you some examples and see if any of these resonate with you. So let's say a person grows up in an unpredictable or like a chaotic home environment where the parents were emotionally unstable, or maybe they weren't around. A gremlin might have been created then to give them a sense of control or security in otherwise chaotic feeling circumstances. Another example is if a person has had an experience with failure, and the gremlin was created to protect them from feeling embarrassment or shame. Another one is you've been hurt in the past. Something has happened where you were hurt in the past, whether it's in a romantic relationship or at work or with something with your family. A gremlin could have been created to prevent you from experiencing the pain of failure or loss or disappointment. Or one last example I'll give you is you were raised in a family or in a culture where there are very high standards and expectations for achievement, whether it's success or appearance, conformity. A gremlin might have been created to ensure that you're meeting those societal expectations so that you can avoid rejection or disappointment. So now what you're going to do is think back to when that gremlin that we're talking about here, the one you just named, when that might have been created. And it's okay if you don't remember. Just kind of thinking about it. When might this gremlin have been created? And then you're going to write it down. The fourth question, when do you think this gremlin first appeared in your life? And just write that down. Remember, this is phase 1. You're bringing awareness to the gremlin, why it's there. And that's important for before we get to the next phase. So in those moments, like the one that you wrote down on your paper where you're lacking confidence, that gremlin is sending you a message. It's got like a little voice in your head. And it doesn't feel good, but it also keeps you safe and in place. So I'm going to give you some really great examples of messages that gremlins may have. And if you hear one of these messages and you're like, huh, I've heard that message before. My gremlin has said that. Give me a little thumbs up, give me a heart just to interact here. Here's some examples of gremlin messages. You're not a good enough parent, right? You're failing as a mom. Your kid should be doing better by now. It's your fault they're struggling. Another message is you're being selfish. The message is, how can you justify taking time for yourself when others need you? You should be focusing on your family and your friends, not yourself. Another gremlin is the you don't deserve it gremlin. Like, why should you take time off when there's so much more to be done? You don't deserve to treat yourself. You need to work harder for that, to earn that. Another gremlin is the you're not qualified enough gremlin. That one's really loud in my life, I'm going to be honest. Basically, you're not capable of handling these changes, this career, this job, this role. You don't have the right skills or expertise that you need to have. Another one is the you're too old gremlin. It's too late to start something new. You've missed your chance, right? There's others ahead of you. It's too late. Another gremlin is the you're too out of shape gremlin. You're too far gone. You're never going to be able to get back to the way you used to be or feel healthy again. Another gremlin is the perfectionist gremlin. If you don't get everything perfect, you're going to look like a failure. There's no room for mistakes. Another one is the comparison gremlin. Look at how great everyone else is doing. All these other people, these friends, these people on social media, colleagues. Why can't you be more like them? And the last one I'm going to share is also a really general. Remember, you can have more than one of these lovely voices. The you're not good enough. Not enough gremlin. You're just not enough. Whether as a parent, a professional, a woman, you're not enough for your family, your job, or even yourself. But not enough. So now on your worksheet, on the second one, it's a little out of order, but the second question is, what negative message did your gremlin have for you? So it can be any of the ones I mentioned or anything else that comes to mind. And if you feel so inclined, I'd love to hear what your gremlin's message is in the chat. Again, it reduces the power of your gremlin's message to be honest and open about it. If you hide it, shame loves secrets. If you hide it and you keep it in, like I'm embarrassed that I even have this voice, you're giving it the power. So think about it, naming it, calling it out on its story, and sharing it is like, I'm sorry, you're not in charge here, I am. So share it in the chat. I'd love to know what it is. And also know that there are going to be a lot of other people who are going to be like, yep, me too. Because we all have the same types of messages from our same gremlins. And generally, all gremlins have the same type of themes. And there's three that I want to point out. It's to avoid shame or disconnection, right? We don't want to be rejected. We don't want other people to see us as a failure or unworthy. So we're afraid to show our vulnerability or to do things that could potentially where we could make a mistake. The second one is to preserve your sense of control and safety. So like if you play it safe, if you stay in your comfort zone, then you'll feel more in control and it will prevent emotional discomfort. And the third theme is avoidance of the unknown. Like, I don't know what's going to happen, and so I'm just not going to do anything. Uncertainty is an uncomfortable feeling for a lot of us. And so the gremlin can be created to protect us from uncertainty. But ultimately, your gremlin's purpose is not to be malicious. It's really created with a desire to protect you, right? But it uses tactics that are not helpful. And it takes things like limiting beliefs, negative self-talk, and all of these things that hold you back from growth, from connection, from fulfillment. And if you understand that your gremlin's motivations are to protect you, even if it's counterproductive, it can be a really good starting point for challenging and shifting your gremlin's message. Okay, so that is where we're going to start now. You have an awareness of your gremlin, you know its message, you have an idea of when it was created, you're onto it. The next step is integration. So now go back to the situation that you wrote down at the beginning of the workshop and think about why this gremlin would be here in this situation. What purpose is it serving, and how might it be trying to protect you? So again, on your worksheet, the first question, this is what you're answering here. What is the gremlin protecting you from in this situation? Take a few moments to write it down, and likely it's feelings that you're being protected from, uncomfortable feelings. So think about the things that I mentioned earlier in the workshop. Maybe some of those feelings are the things that your gremlin are protecting you from. So just write down a few words, maybe share it in the chat too. What feeling is your gremlin protecting you from? Now, we all know that even though that message is there to protect you, it's showing up at times where it's not needed, right? Because your internal desire is telling you that you want to do something, but that inner voice is holding you back. So what you're going to do now is you're going to give your gremlin a new job. So it's still there, it's still going to be there, but its job is going to be different. And its job, instead of protecting you, is to become your ally. So instead of holding the red stop sign, it's going to put its arm around you and it's going to walk alongside you. And it's going to give you messages of support that are no longer focused on criticism or judgment. It's more empowering and focused on learning and growth. Okay? So instead of focusing on the failure that could happen, emphasizing things like resilience, like with a message like, you've handled tough things before, let's focus on how you can manage this with the tools you already have, right? You already have what you need. You've gone through hard things before. You can do this again. Let's figure out how, right? Like an ally, we're going to do this together. Also, instead of protecting you against something like embarrassment, it's going to encourage you to take this courageous action, reminding you that it's okay to step out of your comfort zone. You're going to learn along the way. Every step you take is progress to get you toward what you want in your life. So now what you're going to do is you're going to create a new message from your gremlin and write it down on your paper. It's on the second page. Whatever comes to mind is fine. It's the right answer. There's no wrong answer here. And remember, you can always change this. What do you want your gremlin's new message to be? So if your gremlin's old message was, you're too old to make a change, for example, what do you want your gremlin to be saying to you instead? What supportive, empowering message do you want your gremlin to share when you're in those moments? So take a few moments just to write it down. Share it in the chat. Let us know what your new message is. And while you're doing that, I'll just share with you a little bit about my gremlin. I identified and became aware of my gremlin in 2019. And my coach at the time had me name it, but also had me envision it in my head. And so it can be kind of funny, but I named my gremlin Red. And the vision that I had in my head of what it was a character from Looney Tunes. If you can remember, there's a character in it that is like a big red kind of monster guy. He's kind of oafy, right? Red. That was what my gremlin looked like. And then when I went through the practice of giving my gremlin a new job, well, of course, I got to tell you what my gremlin's message was. If it's not perfect, if you're not perfect, no one will like you, right? Like you have to be perfect in order to be liked. That was my gremlin's message. And it was protecting me from feelings of failure, shame, embarrassment. Like you have to work your butt off. You have to be perfect to be accepted. So when it came time to name my gremlin give my gremlin a new job, this was so fantastic. It was such an amazing moment for me because what came through was, if you've ever watched Hunger Games, in the part where they're doing the showing all the tributes and letting them come onto the stage and everybody's cheering for them, the part where Katniss Everdeen is wearing her dress and then it catches fire, like the girl on fire, that was what Red became. That like strong ass, powerful woman who was going to take no crap from anyone. I am tough. I am strong. I'm standing in my power. And so that was going to, Katniss Everdeen with the fire outfit on was going to be walking alongside me. So in those moments now, I still use this process. I'm telling you, I'm still using this almost 6 years later. When I start noticing Red show up, I remind Red, hey, remember, this is your message now. And I envision that empowering kind of symbol to help me. So I'd love to hear what your new either job is or anything to do with your gremlin. I'd love to hear what it is. Okay, now we're going to move to the third step, which is to release. And this part's kind of fun. So what I'm going to have you do is, if you're still writing, just take a moment, put your pen down, because I'm going to have you say a couple of things in your head to your gremlin. So if you feel safe enough to do so, if you're in a place where you can do this, to close your eyes, and I'm going to say things and you're going to repeat after me in your head. So go ahead and close your eyes and take a big breath in. Breathe out. Here's what you're going to say to your gremlin. I thank you, honor you, and embrace you. And you are not needed to hold me back in this situation. I can handle it from here. Since I no longer need you to protect me from this feeling, I would like you to instead use your energy to help me reach my goals. Now imagine your gremlin in your mind saying back to you, I'd love to. I'm only here to help. And when you're ready, reopen your eyes. And on your worksheet, answer this question. How can you demonstrate this new commitment this week? What's something you can do in this next week with your new gremlin by your side to challenge that inner critic that's been holding you back? Write it down on your paper. And then the next question is, what are you going to do when your gremlin shows up again? Some ideas are remind my gremlin of its new message, or even just talk back, thanks for trying to protect me, but I've got this. That's one of my favorites. So write down, what are you going to say? What are you going to do when your gremlin shows up? These 3 steps, once you have them all down and you're onto your gremlin, the work really begins. Because in order to talk back to your gremlin, it's important to be consistent with it, to be onto it, to be constantly aware of the message. Because so often your subconscious mind is running the show. The same messages, the same old stories are running the show. And it can be really hard to do the things you want to do because of these old habits. So if you really want to keep the momentum going, it's going to be hard to stay consistent. And you may be wondering how you can keep from falling back into these old habits, how you can stay on track, and how you can keep reinforcing this new supportive message that your gremlin has. And that's exactly where coaching makes all the difference. And the reason why is because we're going to be working together so that you don't have to do this alone. You're going to have an accountability partner in me and support and the reassurance that you're going to need to talk back to these old messages and start reintegrating the new ones. We're going to dive into your specific challenges that you have and create a tailored approach to help you overcome the resistance that comes up and maintain this momentum so that you can start building confidence in real time. And I'm going to be right there with you every step of the way. I'm going to guide you through those moments when the old gremlin starts to resurface. And together, we're going to be using proven strategies and techniques to shift these old thought patterns and help you stay consistent with this new narrative that you're creating. And each session, you're going to get actionable steps and the clarity you need to keep moving forward so that you don't have to do it alone. And this process, I'm going to be very clear here, it's not about quick fixes. It's about creating a lifetime of new habits, and that takes time. In order for it to stick, to keep the momentum going, it takes time, it takes practice, it takes a willingness to look at behaviors that you no longer want to do. And that's what I'm here for, to serve as a reflection, as a mirror for you, so that you can make good choices about what you really want to do. But the truth is, if you do it on your own, you can do this on your own. But when you work with somebody, it really collapses time. You start seeing results quicker, you start evaluating quicker, you start taking action quicker because you have an accountability partner to keep you going and motivated through it all. Cheerleading you along the way and supporting you when things come up, when life comes up, because it does. So let's keep the momentum going by working together. And if you would like to learn more about one-on-one coaching, just send me a direct message. You can do it through the chat. You can send me a message here on Facebook. And I'm also going to put in the link or in the comments a link to my calendar page. If you want to just go ahead and schedule a consultation, you can get on the calendar and we'll talk about it. So here is the link to schedule. In the meantime, let's keep this going. Stay here in the group, keep this conversation going, and I would love to hear from you in the chat. If you made it to the end, high five. For giving yourself this 30 minutes to focus on you and improve your experience of life. Drop a heart, drop a thumbs up, drop a jazz hands, your favorite emoji, just so I know you were here. And I'm really, really grateful that you took the time today to work on yourself. It's not always easy to do that. So thank you for being here. And I look forward to hearing from you and seeing you here in the group. Enjoy the rest of your day.